Thank you very much. Hello, everyone, and I will just ask everyone to take their seats and we will get started. Thank you very much. So thank everyone for coming on another snowy day, but that's kind of in the Department of Redundancy. So let's just move on and let's hope it doesn't continue. I'm going to call to order the Gray Sauble Conservation Authority AGM and full authority meeting of Wednesday, January 28th. And I'm just going to read the acknowledgement. We acknowledge with respect the history, spirituality, and culture of the Anishinaabe, the people of the Three Fires known as Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi Nation, who have inhabited this land from time immemorial. And further, give thanks to the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash, now known as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, as the traditional keepers of this land. We also recognize the Métis, whose ancestors shared this land and these waters. May we all, as treaty people, live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship with all its diverse peoples. Moving on, I'll just ask if there is any disclosure of pecuniary interest. Looking around, I see none. Thank you, knowing you can declare at any time. Call for additional agenda items. And again, I see nothing, so we will move to the adoption of the agenda, and I move that the Gray Sauble Conservation Authority Board of Directors approve the agenda of January 28, 2026. May I have a mover and a seconder, please? Member Farmer and Member Winters. Thank you, Ben. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Well, it's been 2 years. That's shocking. So I'm just want to take an opportunity just to say a few words on behalf of this position. So I'm here today with a deep sense of gratitude, humility, and pride. Serving as the chair of the board of the Gray Sauble Conservation Authority has been one of my great privileges of my professional and public service life. First and foremost, I want to thank the GSEA staff. Your expertise, dedication, and commitment to the protection and stewardship of our watershed are the backbone of this organization. Day in and day out, you bring science, professionalism, and passion to your work. Often behind the scenes, often in challenging conditions, and always with the long-term health of our natural environment in mind. The success and credibility of this authority rests squarely on your shoulders, and I'm sincerely grateful for everything you do. To that end, the utmost thanks must go to CAO Lanthier. Your tireless professionalism, dedication, and demeanor make you one of the most effective and well-respected leaders I've had the pleasure of working with. And on behalf of Vice Chair Dubik, the board, and myself, thank you for making our tasks easier and enjoyable. To our volunteers, thank you for your generosity of time, energy, and heart. Conservation work cannot succeed without people who care deeply enough to give back without expectation or recognition. Whether you're restoring habitat, educating the public, supporting programs, or lending your skills wherever needed, your contribution has made a tangible and lasting difference across the Gray Sauble watershed. Our communities are stronger because of you. To my fellow board members, past and present, thank you all for your support, your trust, and your dedication during my time as chair. It's been my honor to serve alongside you. You brought diverse perspectives, thoughtful debate, and a shared commitment to responsible governance. Together, we navigated complex issues, balanced environmental protection interests, with community needs, and made decisions that we believed were in the best interest of both present and future generations. Your willingness to ask hard questions, collaborate respectfully, and keep the mission front and center has been truly inspiring. And within that board, I want to thank Vice Chair Dubik as well, who's been a pleasure to work with and is also has attended in my stead in various capacities that I was unable to attend. Thank you for your assistance. I also want to acknowledge our municipal partners and stakeholders. Conservation is a collective effort, and your collaboration and support have been essential in helping us move forward on shared goals. The challenges facing conservation are real. Climate change, development pressures, and evolving community expectations, just to name a few. However, no challenge is greater than Bill 68. I won't dwell on the proposed amalgamation, as it's already been and will continue to be a vital topic of concern. I will say this is obviously a time of uncertainty, and as I step away from this role, I do so having great confidence that if the province does live up to its promise to at least keep regional administrations intact, then the future of our region is in good hands. In closing, to the incoming chair, I wish you every success and look forward to continuing to support the important work of the Gray Sauble Conservation Authority in whatever ways I can. So moving on, I also want to give Vice Chair Dubik just a chance to say a few words as well.
Great, thank you so much, and thank you for allowing me to crash the agenda. um, so first off, 2 years as vice chair has gone by so quickly, and Rob and I were just speaking about that, and I do want to thank all of you for being part of that. It's been an honor and a pleasure to work with Tim, with Rob, with the board, with staff, and the greater Gray Sauble community. While there's uncertainty about how conservation authorities may look like in the coming years, and how they may be structured, there is certainty of the professionalism of innovation, of the great work that this organization does. And so there is so much for all of us to be proud of. I know I am proud to be part of this organization, and so should all of you. So again, I just want to say, from it's been just such a great opportunity to work with all of you, and I know we have lots to look forward to, and I'm confident that this organization will continue to do great work. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadia. Moving on, I want to just introduce, we do have some guests with us here today, and I want to thank you for attending our AGM. We have Mayor Sue Carlton from Georgian Bluffs. Thank you. And Sonia Skinner from CAO from Collingwood. Eric Downing, CAO Saugeen Valley. Thank you. Randy Scherzer, CAO Grey County. And Chris Couture is online, the Métis Nation of Ontario. I should have mentioned as well, I just want to say that we do have a couple of members that are online. We have Kathy Durst, and Tobin Day is also online for the board. I actually want to give it, we have a number of volunteers that are obviously also in the crowd as well. Yeah, I'm going to give the opportunity for our guests to give greetings. I just wanted to recognize some of the volunteers that we have in the room as well, and thank you very much for coming. So if you would like to just give greetings from your municipalities, Sue, I guess I could start with you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to join you today and to bring greetings from the Township of Georgian Bluffs. We are so fortunate to live in such a beautiful place, minus all the snow, but it's still a beautiful place. From the escarpment views to the shoreline and everything in between. The landscapes that surround us aren't just scenery, they're part of who we are. And we know that protecting them takes effort, care, and strong partnerships. On behalf of council and staff at Georgian Bluffs, I want to thank everyone involved with Gray Sauble, from staff, board members, and volunteers, for the continued work in supporting our environment and the communities who depend on it. Thank you to Rick and Tobin as well for representing Georgian Bluffs here and reporting back to the rest of the council. Whether it's protecting our watersheds, managing conservation lands, or offering educational programs, the work you do helps us make sure these natural spaces are here for the next generation to enjoy. In Georgian Bluffs, we're committed to that type of stewardship. It's part of our values, part of our plans, and part of the reason people choose to call this place home. So thank you again for the invitation to be here, and thank you for the important work that all of you do. We're proud to work alongside you in the coming year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Carlton. As the first chair, actually, when I was on the board, you set a great example to follow, and big shoes to fill. Thank you. Now, if we may have Sonia Skinner, Collingwood.
Thank you for asking me to say just a short greeting on behalf of the town of Collingwood. There's just a small portion of Gray Sauble Conservation Authority in the town of Collingwood. However, it's part of a very complex watershed with spills between Town Line Creek and the Silver Creek, and there's a lot of interested stakeholders there. It's a provincially significant wetland and a semi-urban space on the water frontage of the Great Lakes, which is a really special piece. So we are very happy to have the Gray Sauble contributions there. We appreciate your expertise on flooding and also the weather predictions and other things that we've worked on over the years. Especially with all of these housing pressures at play and the many changes that are coming from the province. The council in Collingwood has put forward a number of resolutions on an ongoing basis to support conservation authorities in continuing on their important mandates moving forward. I wanted to say on behalf of the town of Collingwood, a big thank you to the staff, the board, the foundation, your committees, and your volunteers for your service. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sonia. Appreciate that. Now I'm going to ask Eric Downing from Saugeen Valley say a few words.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair, Vice Chair, and Board of the Gray Sauble Conservation Authority. This is a great building you have here. I knew it was going to be big, but sorry, no. Congratulations and great work on the building you will be having. It is coming along well over there, and I'm happy to hear that everything's on schedule. I know dealing with some recent building items for us. It ebbs and flows, but I'm glad to hear you're on track. So congratulations, of course, on a great 2026. Our thoughts, of course, are with the Gray Sauble and your staff as you navigate a frazzle ice condition, of course, in one of your watersheds. Something we were navigating as recent as the weekend, and Saugeen, of course, different watershed. And another reminder, of course, on how important it is to our work is, and how important watershed management is, and how important development control is, as when the water starts coming up, that's not the time to be trying to make better decisions on development. It's important to do it in advance because you don't feel as helpless as when you see that water coming up. My staff can very much appreciate, and I know you have a watershed on in that right now. Congratulations, though, on your new strategic plan in 2025, I understand. Of course, a great document to guide and lead an organization forward, a bit of a roadmap, key to have, and great to hear that you got that in place. Thank you for your continued work with our organization, the Saugeen Valley Conservation, on provincial proposals and other things. Again, we'll not linger there, as the chair led me to recall, but also something we've been working very closely on lately. Congratulations, of course, to your outgoing chair. I understand for 2 successful terms. I don't understand that you've asked for more, but great work, and I can't believe it's already 2 years. Yes, Robert, that's incredible. Time flies. But great work, of course, to you and your chair, and thanks to Robert as recently as our AGM a couple of weeks ago, as he helped us as chair pro tem. Congratulations, of course, to Tim as well, CAO another year, and a personal thanks to Tim for being a peer I do look up to, not just geographically, as you're north of me, but actually professionally as well. Thank you, Tim, for the guidance and for the great example. Thank you, of course, for collaboration on drinking water source protection. And best of luck from myself and SVCA Chair Hutchinson, again, Chair last year and this year, into 2026. We look forward to our continued collaboration and care for the Grey and Bruce counties, more or less, shared between our 2 CAs for 2026 and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eric. Couple of points of interest. I know I can't run a third time. They're kicking me out. So nope, that's done. And ironically, we'll have a rebuttal from Randy next, because in terms of this being our new home, he may have some umbrage with that. So we'll let Randy speak for Grey County.
Thank you, Chair and Vice Chair and board staff. Good afternoon. We're happy to share this lovely space with Gray Sauble, and whoever else needs access to this space is community space for sure. It's a pleasure to join you today and bring greetings on behalf of the County of Grey. I want to begin by expressing our sincere appreciation for the continued partnership and collaboration that we have between the county, and Grace Sauble. Over many years, our organizations have worked together to support healthy watersheds, protect natural heritage, and ensure responsible stewardship of the landscapes that define our region. This long-standing relationship has always been grounded in collaboration and shared values and a commitment to serving our communities. As folks have indicated, the province has proposed some additional changes to the structure and operations of conservation authorities across Ontario. And while we don't know the full extent of those changes, I'm confident that we'll be able to navigate these together. What I do want to emphasize today is that regardless of whatever changes come, the County of Grey remains committed to the strong partnerships and relationships that we've forged with Great Sauble, Saugeen Valley, and the other two conservation authorities in Grey County. And no matter what those changes are, we hope those strong partnerships and relationships will continue. And we're grateful for the expertise, dedication, and leadership through CAO Lanthier and the board, as well as all the staff that bring to watershed management, environmental planning, and stewardship initiatives in our region. And we look forward to continuing working together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We do appreciate the county support for all the CAs. Thank you. I don't know whether Mr. Couture is in a position to say a few remarks on there.
Yes, I'd just like to say thank you for inviting me and thank you for all the hard work that you guys do. And we look forward to finding ways to partner with each other moving forward.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. So moving on, we're going to have some presentations. So I'm going to hand this over to CAO Lanthier and we can move on where there's going to be some presentations from the volunteer committees to start. Yeah. Do you want to? Are they going to present to you? To us? So I'm gonna, is Don or Dick going to be presenting? No, the finger is pointing squarely at you, Don, so I'm gonna ask you to step forward.
Anyway, excellent speeches and presentations from our elected officials. While the volunteers, we keep our remarks relatively small. So on behalf of the Great Sauble Foundation, we thank you for inviting us to the AGM. As we bring closure to our foundation, we'd like to thank the authority, the municipalities and staff for their support and partnership over the past number of years. We were proud to assist with the Memorial Forest Program, conservation awards for the local secondary schools, and hosting the Earth Film Festival. The foundation, on behalf of the foundation, I'd like to thank Tim and the staff of Great Sauble Conservation Authority for their support, their understanding, compassion, and their extreme love for conservation in the Grey Bruce. It's very grateful to see people that care about the environment and doing their very best with limited funds. We know this year, the Conservation Authority will be challenging for all conservation authorities in the province. It is gratifying to observe the support from all local municipalities, not only in the Grey Bruce, but across the Southern Ontario, as you deal with the provincial legislation. On behalf of the foundation, we wish that the projects and programs that you undertake this year, particularly in your new building, will be very successful. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And once again, and I know we said it in the past, but we cannot thank enough the efforts of the foundation for all that they've done and supported the Conservation Authority over the years. It's much appreciated. So next I would ask Nancy Brown, the IFAA, to just say a few words.
Here we go. Now, Valerie just this morning said to me to keep it short, and unfortunately I have 4 pages. However, it's very large font and half of it is stroked out. I am Nancy Brown, past chair of the Ingalls Falls Arboretum Alliance. We're a volunteer committee of the Grace Sauble Conservation Authority, tasked with planting and maintaining the Arboretum. We have approximately 17 folks who volunteer everywhere from 1 to 2 days a year to some who are there 2 days all year round, except for the winter. We appreciate that our volunteers are a dedicated lot and we get stuff done. This year, we are proud to have taken part and contributed 160 trees and shrubs for the students to plant in a tiny forest behind the bay shore on a berm behind the bay shore alongside the parking lot. So if you haven't had a chance already, perhaps you'll get down there to have a look. I would recommend to wait maybe 2 months. We'll wait and see what the groundhog says, but you won't see much right now. Another thing this year, one of our successes that I want to mention was to remove the final mature Norway maple that was negatively seeding the forest edges and causing disruptions to our native maple stands in the beautiful climax forest around the Arboretum leading up to Ingalls Falls. Norway maple and periwinkle are just two of the most invasive species in gray spruce, which unfortunately are still being sold in nurseries. We are on a course to eliminate invasives from the Arboretum and raise awareness of the harm that they do in all of gray spruce. Now, since I don't see a soapbox here in this well-appointed meeting chamber, I won't get started on my own personal vendetta against invasives, but instead I will continue with the greetings and positivity that the IFAA want to bring to you. You have your challenges that lie ahead for some sort of a realignment in reporting structures within the CAs. And I know that the role that you play here is only a small bit of your overall responsibilities in your elected positions, answering to the ever more radical and divisive populace. But I'm here as a 26-year veteran volunteer of Grace Sauble and as a grandmother to a darling 4-year-old and 2-year-old twins to ask you all to please, through the work that you do here with the Conservation Authority, to please keep the green spaces that we have. Keep as much of the green canopy over their heads and the soil and grasses and wildflowers under the feet of our future generations. Do as much as you possibly can in your municipalities and here at the CAs, the Conservation Authority, to promote the mitigation of climate change and promote climate action. Believing in the work of the staff here at Grace Sauble, I feel is our best hope within the watershed to preserve fresh water, preserve the banks, the dams, the waterfalls, and to conserve the beauty of nature on our 29,000 acres. You're holding the jewels of gray spruce here, and the Arboretum is one of your shiniest gems. It's a place where people go to find peace and healing and solitude among the mature trees and walk on the 2 kilometers of trail which meander throughout the 200 named species of trees and shrubs. It's a place to go to get away, a place to grow and a growing place. It's green and vibrant with wildflowers, wildlife, birds and insects, and children. We have forest school, day camps, school field trips, educational programs with Chelsea Vieira. The children's voices echo across the Arboretum when we're there working on Tuesday and Friday mornings from April to October. In closing, I'd just like to thank all of you for the work that you do in guiding the future of the Grace Sauble Conservation Authority. And we from the IFAA are wishing you strength this year in dealing with inevitable change. But you've got this.
Thank you very much for the kind words and all you do, and we'll make sure we have a soapbox there next year. Finally, I'm just Bob Knapp, Friends of Haibu. Mind coming forward and say a few words? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for letting me bring greetings. And it's interesting following Nancy. I agree with what she said, so I don't need to say it again. Um, so, Friends of Haibu that I represent, which is connected with Shoreline Park, the large park we have on the east side of Owen Sound. We began in 2013, which makes us 13 years that we've been at this. We have a small team of 7 committed, and 2 of them are here today, both Dick Himba and Don Sengi. So that's great. And then we have like about 20 volunteers who we coordinate to do such jobs as shore cleanup, trail clipping, and boardwalk replacement. That's a big one. Years ago, they got a lot of grant money and they built all these boardwalks, and unfortunately don't last forever. So we seem to be, we're in about the 7th year of working on replacing them. I don't know, they may outlast me. We appreciate that we have the support of the Conservation Authority, and people do appreciate the volunteering. One of the hardest jobs we're doing related to Nancy there is we're trying to replace trees in the parking lot, and you're really dedicated when you try to plant in a parking lot. Yeah. Money for our work generally comes from grants, and I just like to say that we think we have a good relationship with the Conservation Authority, and we appreciate the support. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. And again, it just shows the symbiotic relationship that all these volunteer organizations and the authority have, and it is definitely our region is better for it. Thank you for that. So I did try and jump ahead there earlier, and now I'm going to go in proper order. So I'm going to turn it over to Tim, because in recognition of everything the foundation has done, we're going to have a little presentation. So Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as Chair has mentioned, the foundation is here with us today, some of you. So I'd like to recognize Don Sankey and Al Wilcox, Dick Hibma, Nancy Brown, who are in the audience with us today from the foundation. And I'd like to recognize that, as we've talked about over the past year, the foundation is winding down and will be dissolving over the course of this year. And I'd like to take a moment on behalf of our staff and the board of GSCA to recognize the work of the Grey Sauble Conservation Foundation and to thank you for that work. It's with the bittersweet mix of gratitude, admiration, and a touch of sadness that we recognize the foundation's closing chapter. For many years, your work has quietly, or in Don's case, not always so quietly, but certainly consistently strengthened our community. You've supported ideas, you've supported staff, you've invested in projects that will continue to benefit the residents of our community long after today. The legacy you leave is not measured in dollars or grants, but in opportunities created, partnerships forged, and lives changed. While the foundation may be winding down, the impact of your efforts will not. The seeds that you've planted, both literally and figuratively, will continue to grow, and we are grateful to have been part of that journey with you. So thank you for your generosity. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your belief in what's possible. And thank you for your faith in the conservation work of Grey Sauble Conservation Authority. Our community is a better place because of you and the work that you've done. So on behalf of Grey Sauble Conservation Authority and the whole community, we'd like to present each of you with a small token of our appreciation. We have had some small but hopefully very personal gifts made for each of you, showing the GSCA watershed, along with both the GSCA and the GSCF logos. And I hope that the work that you've done here will always hold a small place in your heart. So if I could invite the 4 of you to come forward. So I recognize that I may not be as loud for the people not here, but what we do have, and I'll show the audience and the board, is we've had wood carved model of the watershed made, and we're hoping that it's small enough that you'll display it, but but personal enough that it has meaning to you. So
Will, thank you
Nancy,
very
thank you
much.
so much for everything you've done.
You're
We
most
really
welcome.
appreciate it. John, thank you very much. Thank you so much. It's really appreciated. Very nice. I think we're not letting go of it yet. Here's that. Anyway, then we do have one for Nancy and Bill as well. On your drones.
1, 2, 3. Awesome. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you for that, Tim. And again, thank you for all the great work the foundation has done on behalf of the board. I'm again still going to turn it over to Tim here to just give a little bit of a brief year in review for 2025 in summary. So I'll let you take that away, Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So hopefully everybody can see this either on your screen or on the screen behind me. Just want to take a few moments here to talk about the work that has happened over the last year. And I would like to thank the board for your support. I'd like to thank our staff for your tireless effort. And I'd like to thank Chair Uhrig and Vice Chair Dubik for their support as well. So 2025 was quite a monumental year when I look back on it and think about all that we've accomplished as a team within the community. So we had a pretty aggressive or a pretty lofty work plan for the year. And on top of that, we were able to add a major renovation to our administration center, as well as unprecedented change from the province of Ontario. And the team still pulled through and pulled off all the goals that we set for ourselves. So I just like to highlight a few of those. So we did update our strategic plan in 2025. We set a 10-year plan for ourselves that will have check-in points throughout, but very much goals that are going to help the organization stay strong and that are going to help the community grow in positive ways. So some of the things that we've done over the course of the year are we commenced with the administration center renovation, as I mentioned, and also relocated our team out of that building and into downtown Owen Sound, which we've been enjoying, but I think the team is eager to get back into the new building and the beautiful space out at Inglis Falls. And on the side here, you can see an artist's rendering of what the lobby will look like as you come into our new administration center in May when we move back in. We've moved from a 1-year to a 3-year budget process this year, which is a big step forward corporately for us. Now, we have had to do that a bit tentatively now with the changes that are pending and looming, but hopefully we'll still be able to move forward in that vein. And we've also completed a review of our asset management plan and how we plan to fund that moving forward. We had a retirement of a long-term staff person, our network administrator, Les McKay, earlier this year. And we realized quickly a couple of things. One, we're not going to be able to replace Les as to do everything that Les did, but also IT and data management is changing dramatically and quickly as we move forward. And it's hard to find somebody who can do all things all the time. And so our IT team worked hard to onboard a third-party service provider to provide those services for us, which not only makes us stronger as an organization, but reduce our operating costs as well. We've updated our vertical elevation data, which helps us make informed decisions on all of the work that we do throughout the watershed, including the flood forecasting and flood modeling work that we do. We've successfully transitioned GSCA's IT infrastructure to a new location, and shortly we'll be moving it all back. That may not sound like a large feat, but believe me, it is. The logistics that go along with that. We've enhanced our field mapping workflows to improve efficiency and accuracy. So when our staff are out in the field collecting information, they do that directly through tablets and phones now. And that information is automatically updated right back into our systems and our servers so that we're working with the most relevant and up-to-date data possible. In terms of flood forecasting and managing flood risk, we continue to access over 120 real-time weather stations throughout the watershed to make sure our data is accurate and up to date. We undertook an effort to replace all of our water level monitoring stations and equipment this year to improve our systems. And our team is out there right now, periodically monitoring snow and maintaining snow data to ensure that when the thaws come and when spring comes, we know how much water is already on the watershed and we know how that's going to impact our communities so that we can work with our municipal partners to make good decisions. Our environmental planning department continues to be very, very busy, seeing over 350 permit applications this year and over 400 planning applications. And this is in addition to the just regular inquiries, phone calls that come in the door, working to make sure that our communities stay safe and working to represent the model that conservation authorities represent within the province of Ontario and nowhere else in the world. We also assisted our municipal partners with comprehensive reviews of zoning and official plans. On the land management side, we saw record parking revenue numbers this year at our properties. Whether this was a result of people not wanting to travel too far afield from home, or whether it's the beauty of our properties, or likely a combination of the two, we've seen this number trending upwards year after year. And I think that's a reflection of the great work that our team is doing in terms of advertising our properties, but also in terms of maintaining them. And at one of our flagship properties, Inglis Falls Conservation Area, we completely retrofitted the bathroom on site to make it fully universally accessible, as well as adding an accessible pathway from the parking lot down to the lookout to make this property more accessible, but to make this an equal opportunity property for anybody who wants to visit it so that everybody can enjoy the beauty of Inglis Falls. And we updated our very popular Explore guide. And so you should look for that on tourism shelves anytime, or if somebody wants something, come to our office and talk to us about it, and we can certainly make those available. We completed phase 2 of our Spirit Rock management plan that will wrap up in 2026. So another very popular property for Grey Sauble, and it's good to see us thinking about how that property is going to be used and developed moving forward. We developed a management strategy to deal with emerald ash borer, which is causing dramatic changes in the forests across southern Ontario, and Grey Sauble is definitely not immune to this. And we undertook important invasive species management on GSCA lands to remove wild chervil, Phragmites, and dog strangling vine. And you can see in the picture here some of our team members out at Bogner Marsh removing a lot of Phragmites. And it's really important that we try to keep ahead of this, and it's a challenge. It continues to be a challenge. We also completed 2 sustainable harvest operations to maintain our forest health, and we updated our website to provide information to the public on forest management practices, how they work, why we do them, and why it's important. We planted approximately 25,000 trees across the watershed this year, creating over 40 acres of new forest, and secured over $61,000 in funding grants to help landowners undertake this work and to help improve watershed conditions. We sold an additional 3,000 trees through either pre-order or through our tree sales. And so if we think about that in the same terms, that could equal another 40 acres or 45 acres of forest in Grey Bruce counties. And we completed 21 management plans for people's forests, and that equates to over almost 1,800 acres of responsibly managed forest. I've been alluding for a little while to the board that we had a funding announcement coming for our stewardship program. And I'm happy to say that we're getting ready to sign an agreement with Conservation Ontario under the RELP. So it's Resilient Agricultural Landscape Program for funding from OMAFA in excess of $300,000 that will help to support watershed stewardship over the next 3 years within Grey and Bruce counties, including things like stream fencing and cover crops to help improve our watersheds. We sample the water throughout our watersheds. We have 35 sites 8 times a year, plus 15 benthic sites to keep an eye on how the watersheds are doing. There is nobody else offering this service within our communities, and I think it's important that our communities know the health of their watershed. And we supported over 500 acres of cover crop, 5,000 new trees through our stewardship program, and 2,000 meters of exclusion fencing. We completed source protection plan amendments for discretionary septic inspection policies at Lake Rosalind in the Saugeen Valley watershed. We delivered risk management services on behalf of 15 municipalities, including land use screening, site inspections within vulnerable source protection areas. And that's up one from last year. So we did bring on a new municipality for us to do that work for them. It's an economies of scale thing where it does make sense for the conservation authorities to provide these services to our municipal partners. And we completed 3 new salt management plans with our municipalities and 4 site-specific plans in high-risk areas. Our education program, which is relatively new, only a couple of years old now, is really starting to take off and really get rolling, and we're very proud of this program. We received grant funding from the Jane Goodall Institute and the TD Friends of the Environment Foundation to launch our turtle stewardship program. It turns out people in the watershed really like turtles, and we like doing our part too. So this program included building turtle nest protectors and installing these on roadsides, and we had more than 100 volunteers come forward to help out with this program. We received grant funding from the Greenbelt Foundation to continue the turtle stewardship program and to create wetland-linked programming at Bogner Marsh. We received funding from Hydro One to launch wetland education program linked to natural hazards and wetland resilience. And we received 16 nature backpacks from Watersheds Canada to lend out through local libraries and other partners to help people get out into nature with a purpose and to help with learning. And I would like to note, and a big shout out to our education team, we were targeting for $20,000 in grant funding this year in our education program. We secured almost $75,000 in grant funding in that program this year, and just monumental, I think, and it really goes to show how we can carry out this important work. We continue to partner with local libraries to make our membership passes available to all. So we're trying to tear down barriers to financial barriers to people so that everybody can enjoy our properties. We kept the community engaged with GSCA's quarterly newsletter, helped to organize and run the Bruce Grey Forest Festival, and this year saw over 1,000 grade 7 students and 150 high school students engaged in those programs. And we updated GSCA's public communications policy. So again, I'd like to note that these accomplishments would not have been possible without our amazing team and their hard work and without the support from you, the board. So thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Tim. And I'll echo that. Yes, from the volunteers to the staff, the leadership of Tim, governance of the board. The review does give exactly the depth and breadth of the work that gets done, and that is directly based on the efforts of everyone in this room and beyond. And thank you, everyone, for that, because it is that has made this a success. So thank you. So with that, my last official duty as chair, I'm going to ask that Dick Hibma be appointed as chair pro tem for the 26th election of officers. May I have a mover and a seconder, please? Member Mackey and Member Farmer, thank you very much. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Dick, the chair is yours. Take that out of your way.
Sure.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. 31 years ago was the first time I experienced an annual general meeting of the Gray Sauble Conservation Authority. Much has changed. I've gotten older. But having experienced this annual general meeting process for pretty much all of those years in one way or another, it's a real privilege for me to have the opportunity to preside over this part of the agenda one more time. Thank you, Tim, for that invitation, and thank you to the board for voting in favor of that. Listening to your presentation reinforced for me just how much I still care about conservation authorities and the work they do, and the Gray Sauble in particular. May you prosper and continue to do all of the fine work that you do in the coming years. The future of all of our children and grandchildren, as Nan alluded to, depends on us continuing to do the remarkable work that we do. So let us begin with the election of officers. At this point in time, the chair and vice chair have stepped down, and I would declare that those two positions, vice chair, are now vacant. I will review with you the election procedures. I think you have copies of those either online or in front of you. Once we have chair and vice chair in place, then I will step down and turn the meeting back to you, to the new chair. We will be appointing non-director scrutineers, and those have been arranged or agreed to. We just have to officially appoint them. The order of procedure for the elections will be the election of the chairperson, who must be an accredited director of the authority. Then the election of the vice chair, who also shall be an accredited director of the authority. I will call for nominations from the members of the authority for the chair, for the position of chair initially. Nominations will be accepted when duly moved by a member. No seconder required. It's a break from the normal procedure, so I won't be asking for seconders. I'll ask 3 times for those nominations for chair. After the third call, I will ask for a motion to close nominations, and that one will require a mover and seconder. And then in the order which people have been nominated for their position, we will give those people opportunity to accept or deny their nomination. And if we have more than one who accepts the nomination, they will be given an opportunity to speak for up to 3 minutes to their nomination. An extended campaign, let the wars begin. Otherwise, the position would be acclaimed if there's only one person accepting a nomination, and that person will be named as the chairperson, and subsequently the same process for the vice chair. If there are 2 or more, you will be given a ballot after those people have accepted a position and had their turn to speak. And your ballot will be marked, and we'll have the scrutineers count the ballots, secret ballot, of course. And in the event of a tie, we will vote again. If it's not broken after 3 attempts, then the final position will be filled by drawing the winning name from a hat containing the name of the tied candidates. And I've seen this happen once at Saugeen, until finally one withdrew their name from position. It was an interesting process. And we'll follow that same procedure for the vice chair position. Once the election is done, we'll install the newly elected chair in the chair position, and I will hand over control of the meeting to that newly elected person. Any questions to that process? Everyone understands? Tim?
Thank you for that, Mr. Chair. And I would just, for clarity with the legislation, the way it changed a few years ago, just note for the board that Member Urig and Member Bell are not eligible for chair position this year. because there's a 2-year duration for the per municipality consecutively, and member Dubik is not eligible for the vice chair position for the same reason. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. That's an important consideration as we enter into the nominations. So, having reviewed the process, I will ask for a motion to appoint scrutineers, and we have identified Don Sankey and Nan Brown. Nan Brown and Don Sankey. Could I have a mover and seconder for that? Member Shaw and Member Farmer. Thank you. Questions to the motion? Scott. I'm learning.
Just my question being, what's the process that is planned? Should there be a requirement to collect votes from the virtual attendees?
We have a virtual vote set up with a form. It's similar to the one that we used previously. And our scrutineers will have a spreadsheet that they can read from. Those who are in person will vote by paper ballot, and then those will be tabulated along with the virtual votes.
We'll trust that our scrutineers, if called upon, will master the science of the virtual voting in conjunction with the paper ballots. All in favor of the motion appointing the scrutineers? And online, we're good. The motion is carried. Thank you. I will begin by calling for nominations for chair for 2026. First call for nomination for chair. Member Urick.
I know it's fun sitting in that chair with that mic, isn't it? I nominate Scott Gregg.
Thank you. A second call for chair. Are there anyone online with nominations for chair? Not seeing anyone, then I will call a third time for nominations for the position of chair. And online, none. Then I would ask for a motion to close nominations, please. Moved by Councilor Farmer and Dubik. All in favor of closing nominations? That looks like a majority. Thank you very much. Nomination for chair is closed. I would ask if Member Gregg wishes to let his name stand for position of chair.
It would be a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Gregg. And then power invested in me, I would declare you the chair of Grey Sauble Conservation Authority for 2026. Congratulations. And I'm sure the scrutineers breathe a sigh of relief for round one. We'll now turn to the second page of this where we talk about position of vice chair. Again, same process. First call for nomination for the position of vice chair of Grey Sauble Conservation Authority. Member Mack.
Thank you, Chair. It would be my privilege to nominate Member Jen Shaw.
Thank you. Member Shaw has been nominated. A second call for nomination for the position of vice chair. Do we have anyone online wishing to nominate? Don't see any. In that event, a third call for nomination for position of vice chair. Appears to be no further ones, so I would ask for a motion to close nomination for the position of vice chair. Member Farmer and Member Bell, thank you. All in favor of the motion to close nominations for vice chair? Thank you. That motion is carried. Member Shaw, do you accept your nomination?
Here we go. It would be an honor.
Thank you. It gives me pleasure to accept that nomination and the voice of the council to say you are vice chair for 2026 of the Gray Sauble Conservation Authority. I guess at this point, the last motion that I will ask for would be a motion to appoint vice chair and vice chair Scott Gregg and Jen Shaw for 2026 Gray Sauble Conservation Authority. Moved by Tony Bell, seconded by Councillor Farmer. Discussion? All in favor? And online is in agreement. So the motion is carried. Congratulations. The election of officers is complete. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Okay. Well, thank you very much to the mover. Much appreciated, and to the board for your support. Looking forward to 2026, and glad to be able to represent Gray Sauble Conservation Authority, the staff, and CAO Tim Lanthier, and the interests before us. I think with all the turmoil that the province has created, the Gray Sauble Conservation is not the catalyst for such turmoil. Rather, I think we should be the vision of how the province should endeavor to have conservation authorities function in the province. And if there's anything should become of a restructuring, it's mirroring the passion and the professionalism that's been demonstrated from Gray Sauble Conservation, not only staff, but also the volunteer community, of which many of you spoke so fervently and passionately earlier today. And we're all glad to be able to continue to extend that to the greater community. And many of us have stated that, oh, there's the snow, but the snow is good. We need to embrace the snow, because in doing so, it means we're outside in nature, and we're attaching ourselves to nature. And in attaching ourselves to nature, we are furthering our commitment and resolve to ensuring that nature flourishes, the ecology, the environment around us flourishes, and we're looking after it as stewards, not only today, but for those in the future. I know one of the first comments I made about 5 years ago in this place was we need to move forward with refurbishing, rehabilitating the administration center. And it's great to be part of that endeavor, as we're that close to finishing. It's been great to meet here, but I can't wait for us to be meeting at the administration center again, as we did for so many years, and to see that building come into to completion in the near future. It's not an easy thing to tackle when you want to embark on such a reconstruction project on your administrative offices, and particularly in today's climate where we try to stretch every dollar as far as we can. But it's been a great project to be part of, And thank you very much to the outgoing chair, member Urig, and to the vice chair, member Dubik, for your work in continuing that process forward, and your advocacy to the community on behalf of Great Sauble Conservation Authority. You've done a tremendous job the last couple of years. So thank you very much for that work, and just glad to be part of trying to continue forward with the great work that's been done ahead of me here. Those are my comments. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Vice Chair Jennifer Shaw. Congratulations on your nomination and your acceptance.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Chair Scott. And thank you to Member Mackey for the nomination and the board for your confidence. Inadvertently, I found myself advocating for this conservation authority last week at Roma, saying very similar things to what our chair just spoke about, of how I think we have an example here of how things are to work. And this is a great example for the province to look to if they're looking for efficiencies and how conservation authorities should work with municipalities to get houses built and minimize red tape. So I'm pleased to be in this role, and I look forward to following the great lead of the chair and vice chair before us, and working with you, Chair Greg, recognizing this will be an interesting year ahead, I'm sure. So I'm appreciative of your leadership and experience here, and working with you as well, Tim. So thank you very much.
Yes, and depending on the outcome of the year ahead, those wood carvings showing our watershed, don't lose those. Those may get more valuable. So we have one short item of business before us before we'll have a short recess. That is the 2026 committee appointments. I don't think there's a whole lot to be discussed here. Most of the positions are appointments. I am happy still serving on the Arboretum Alliance unless there's a member of the board wishes to place themselves in that role. I'd accept anybody to speak should they wish, but I note that I'm very happy continuing to assist where I can as a board member on that great committee, the Arboretum Alliance. So I don't see anybody in the room for discussion. I'm not seeing, I see Member Day shaking her head and no hand raised for Member Durst. So I think we can carry forward with those committee appointments. We don't have a motion attached, do we?
But we do also have the building ad hoc committee so just to make sure that we.
And are the members okay still serving on that ad hoc committee till completion, which is right around the corner? I see thumbs up, and presume Member Durst is the same. So
can you hear me?
Yes, I can now. Go ahead.
Well, I'm good with my committee. I've been struggling this whole meeting to I have heard everything, but my computer does not let me go forward. So I just wanted to let you know that I'm fine with whatever committee, the building committee.
Okay, we won't throw any further surprises at you. We'll keep you on the ad hoc building committee, Kathy. Thank you. So I will go to the secretary. If you do have I guess the motion being that the Great Sauble Conservation Authority Board of Directors make the following appointments to the committees as listed. Noting that Member Urig, Member Dubik on Conservation Ontario will be substituted with the current chair and vice chair. Drinking Water Source Protection Management Committee appointments are the same, chair and vice chair, and other appointments will remain as follows. Do I have a mover? Member Mackey has so moved, and Member Dubik has seconded. Any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. And at this time, it being 2:22, we will take a 15-minute recess. Thank you very much for all the attendees and guests in attendance today. It's great to see everyone, and thank you so much for taking a little bit of time out of your day to join us and be part of the annual general meeting. So hopefully you'll be able to stick around for the next 10-15 minutes for some last greetings before continuing on with your day. All right, so we will call the meeting back to order at 2:43. I see Member Day on the screen, and I presume Member Durst is there. I should just have you express via audio that you are with us right now, Kathy.
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, I believe our next item before us is minutes of the December meeting. No, this would be that. Oh, I see. Yes, I'm looking at November. Are there any questions to any of the minutes from December? Not seeing any, just looking for a mover to receive those minutes for approval. Member Urick and seconded by Member Bell. All those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. We have no business out of the minutes at this time. Next item is the consent agenda. Are there any items within the consent agenda members would like pulled for separate discussion? Not seeing any, so I'm looking for a motion to receive the consent agenda. Member Mackey has so moved. Member Dubik has seconded. And just before I call the vote, I just want to point out that there is a hyperlink within the materials because there's so many various letters of correspondence. So you can glean more by clicking that hyperlink, but it's nice to see the municipality in North Perth, I think, echoes a lot of the sentiment around the province. So thanks to staff for including that in an open fashion just for everyone to see. I think their comments are spot on. All those in favor of receipt? And that's carried. Thank you. We have no delegations this month. And into our business items, the first item is the 2025 work plan completion summary. So I will pass it off to Tim to speak to that item.
Thank you very much, Chair. I won't go into a lot of detail on the actual work plan. We covered a lot of those items in the presentation that I gave summarizing 2025. But I would note that that I do believe our team this year did a phenomenal job in 2025 and accomplished quite a substantial amount. When you look at the actual work plan, you'll see that all except 3 items are fully complete of the 45 projects that we set for the authority this year. 3 are deferred, and one of those was deferred due to the swoop project that we just don't have the material from the province yet to carry through with our project, and the others are just deferred into the first part of this year. Again, I'd like to thank staff for their dedication and hard work in making this happen this year, on top of everything else that the authority dealt with over the course of the year. And again, I'd like to thank the board for your support in helping make this a reality. So thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, I'd welcome any questions that the board may have on the work plan.
Okay, first, thanks, Tim. First, I will go to online. If there's any questions there, I don't see a hand raised. To members on the floor. Member Dubik, go ahead.
Thank you. It's not a question, but just a comment. I just want to thank, as a board member, I just want to thank Tim and staff for the outstanding work this past year, and also just the ability to be able to pivot and reprioritize when needed and still stay on track, and being able to do that in a very transparent way to the board. The way you report back, it makes it very easy for us to follow along. And so we do know where and how you're doing. So thank you for that.
Thank you for those comments. I'm not seeing any further questions from the floor. That's just a nice report to see, timed well after the 2025 that you presented year in review at the start of the meeting during the AGM. So nice timing. So I do have a motion that the Board of Directors receive this report for information, acknowledge the significant achievements of the Gray Sauble Conservation Authority in delivering its 2025 work plan. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Member Rick Winters has moved and member Urick has seconded. Any further questions? Not seeing any. All those in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. So the next item before us is the 2026 budget. So back over to Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this will be the third time that this budget has come before the board. So we brought it forward in October for what I like to call sort of the kick around budget draft for the board to take a look at. We brought it back in November, slightly modified to account for some items that we didn't know in October. And then at the November meeting, the board approved it for circulation to our municipal partners. We circulated it to the municipal partners on December 5th with an open invitation to come and speak to any municipal councils that would like to have us come out. We received an invitation from 3 municipal councils. So we attended Chatsworth Council, and Chatsworth passed a resolution of support for the budget. We attended the Township of Georgian Bluffs Council about a week ago, and no resolution passed in favor or against, but some questions from council that we answered at the time, and no further comments were received. No comments were received from any other municipality except for the Town of the Blue Mountains. So I went to talk to Town of Blue Mountains Council in December, just before the holiday break. And then in early this year, at the beginning of January, a staff report came forward to the town that raised some concerns with Gray Sauble's budget and the amount that it has gone up for the Town of the Blue Mountains since 2019 until now. And so the town council asked some questions in their open session meeting and provided some direction to their staff to meet with us. Some of the concerns raised by town council is that the Town of Blue Mountains share has risen over the last 7 years considerably, that their share is more than everyone else's. So currently our budget is apportioned based on modified current value assessment. So the province provides us with the value the value assessment of property within the municipality for each of our municipalities. And then that is modified by the amount of the municipality that's within our watershed. So for Town of the Blue Mountains, 84% is in our watershed. City of Owen Sound is 100%. Township of Chatsworth, maybe about 52%. And so that is how the legislation requires us to apportion the levy. Town of the Blue Mountains, based on the assessed value in the town, represents 29.22% of that levy. So it is a substantial amount relative to everybody else's. The town is asking us to provide an explanation of our budget and what we're doing to reduce costs. And they would like us to do more to reduce their share of the levy. Some ideas that were posed by council were to reduce the budget by including a vacancy allowance. So essentially making an assumption that we will have staff vacancy within the year, and that we should reduce the budget accordingly to do that. Gray Sauble has quite a small staff. We have 28 staff people, and our staff is relatively stable. So we have made adjustments in our budget where we know there are going to be vacancies. For instance, we have a retirement coming up this year, and we've accounted for that. And we're backfilling that management position with a technician level position. So there are cost savings there. We have a staff that has recently left on parental leave, again, a management position that we are backfilling for the year with a technician level position, not to suggest that that position is a technician level position, but for the year. That will allow us to carry forward with our work. So again, that saves money. And the difference between what the manager would cost us in the year and what the additional cost that backfilling is going to cost us is being funded by reserves, recognizing that it's a one-time cost. So we are taking those actions to reduce costs, but I think with a relatively stable staff and a very small staff, I think leaving just choosing an amount as a vacancy allowance would likely leave us in a deficit position at the end of the year. And I'm not sure that that's a fiscally responsible choice for us to make. Some of the other ideas posed by council were to reduce our budget using reserves. We use reserves for operating only where it makes financial sense, as I just mentioned, that one-time example. Otherwise, my opinion is that we would put ourselves in a worse spot in future years because we would have to find that money again in future years. Like the reserve would offset it for 1 year, but in the future that just comes right back to us. So you would see a larger jump in a future year to make up for that because we can't continue to use reserves for that reason. As presented to the board in November, our reserves are largely earmarked for specific things. The other request was to see if there are other ways that we could reallocate costs between municipalities as opposed to using the modified current value assessment. So I will be preparing a letter of response to the town. I did have an opportunity yesterday to meet with the director of finance for the town to talk about our budget and to talk about why it is the way it is. So what I would note to the board is that the town's levy, the town of the Blue Mountains apportionment has increased from about $360,000 in 2019 to about $606,000 in 2026. But about $100,000 of that can be attributed to the work that we're doing on the building, which was identified very specifically in the budget as a separate item. So I think about $55,000 is apportioned annually to the town of the Blue Mountains for that. The other 45,000 of the 100 that I'm talking about is related strictly to the relationship between the growth in assessment value in the town versus the growth in assessment value in our other municipalities. So if our levy stayed exactly what it was in 2019 and did not increase over that 8-year period, the town of Blue Mountains' share of that would still have gone up $45,000 based on the shift in assessed value of property. And that's not something that we can necessarily control. Anyway, what I will be planning to do, with direction from the board, is to prepare a response letter to the town that speaks to some of the drivers for the increase in their portion of the budget over the years. So those two items that I just mentioned. Some cost saving measures that we have actually been taking to keep the levy increase at $78,000 instead of more, and information on how our reserves are earmarked, and the fact that our lands reserve, which is the one that we contribute to the most, is still oversubscribed on the 10-year horizon. And also the fact, in talking with the director yesterday, she was surprised to learn that our reserves are really the only mechanism we have for funding our capital. With the building, we borrowed money from the city of Owen Sound that collectively as a group we're repaying. But we've learned through that process that Infrastructure Ontario will not lend to conservation authorities. And we know that capital grants such as the Trillium Grant are not available to conservation authorities. The province will not allow us to access those grants. So we don't have some of the mechanisms that municipalities have to fund these projects, and therefore it's really important that we do manage our reserves effectively to be able to pay for them. So otherwise, the board should be familiar with the budget, but through you, Mr. Chair, I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the introduction of that matter. I'll go to Member Mackey first, then Member Farmer next.
Thank you, newly elected Chair Greg, and through you to Tim. Just wondering, Tim, in regards to the concerns that Blue Mountains had with our budget, did they have similar concerns that you're aware of with the Nottawasaga budget? I believe Nottawasaga Conservation is also within the town of Blue Mountains. I'm just wondering if it was only our budget or whether it was conservation budgets in general. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm unfortunately unable to answer that, but our member from the town may have an answer.
Which one is it? Oh, uh, thank you through the chair to Member Mackey. The Nottawasaga Conservation Authority, they just look at that number, the small number, but actually, I guess as somebody pointed out, I think Tim pointed out earlier, proportionally it's more. But they just look at the small number at the Nottawasaga one, so they think it's less. Am I correct on that, Tim? How that's calculated?
Through you, Mr. Chair. I can't speak to how your council views Nottawasaga's budget, but what I can say is 84% of the town's assessed value is within Great Sauble's watershed and 16% is within Nottawasaga's watershed.
Takes some getting used to these buttons here. Go ahead, Member Farmer.
Thank you. Just a clarifying question through the chair to Tim. The Conservation Authority can't apply for grants as an organization. We do benefit, as we heard earlier, from various partner organizations. And we've heard at least that Friends of Haibu do much of their work with support of grant funding. Is it, are we able to, are Conservation Authority lands able to benefit from grant funding from volunteer organizations in that, like, through something like the recently opened up again Trillium Capital Funds, or are we limited as beneficiaries as well?
Through the chair. So I just want to be clear, we can apply for grants. It's capital grants that are pretty lean. So Community Foundation Grey Bruce, for instance, has a capital grant every year that we can apply to. But in terms of the Trillium grant, no. Conservation authorities can neither apply nor be the beneficiary of that grant, is my understanding.
Okay, any further questions from the floor? I'll go to Member Mackey next.
I was just wondering if the Grey Sauble Conservation Authority could apply through our MAT funding for some of the like Pease Marsh and for Clendenin's Dam area. I might help out. Just a thought.
I'm not sure if you want to comment to that. I'd like to just point out, I congratulate staff on bringing the budget back down to 3.89% change in the levy increase. How that share is divvied up, as CAO Lanthe just spoke, is a function of the assessment growth. So they are somewhat victimized by an elevated amount of growth in their municipality, comparable to all the other municipalities in the watershed. I appreciate the CAO's response to some of their concerns, which were articulated in the correspondence. I think that you did an excellent job of speaking to that, but how it is distributed amongst the municipalities is different than when we create our own municipal budgets, and growth shows differently. It's an after effect, and the net levy is just one of the ways you fund your actual budget, but it's not the municipal budget. It's just one of the means to be able to fund it. So I was a little bit disappointed with the tenor of the report to the Town of Blue Mountain Council regarding the Gray Sauble Conservation Authority budget, because I do support it myself and stand behind it, and I think staff did a good job in bringing it in at 3.89% this year. So just like to thank staff for the extra work, because we started at north of 5, and obviously north of 5, then when you redistribute that, it would have been more impactful to the town of the Blue Mountains. So I understand their concerns with the budget as a whole and the impact, but as the CAO noted, this is driven by legislation in terms of who pays what and the share. So I'm not seeing any questions online. If you do have one, please raise your hand. Last call for questions in the room to the budget. We've had a couple drafts before getting to this point here today, and we do have a couple of motions. We've got 3 motions then to be carried, and I would like then to pass it to the secretary to read out the motions and the recorded vote for each.
I was going to bring the motion up on the screen, but I'll just read it because I'd have to go through the entire budget companion to get there. Okay, so the first motion, motion FA-26-001, states that all participating municipalities be designated as benefiting for all projects, included in the 2026 operating budget, and that the 2026 capital budget, unless otherwise specified in the budget. Mover and a seconder. Oh, sorry.
Going back for it.
There you go.
Moved by member Farmer, seconded by member Mackey.
And it's a recorded vote, so I will call out your name and you can say yay or nay on the motion. There, found it. Member Bell. Member Day online. Thumbs up.
There we go. Technology, sorry, this is a new platform for online meetings for me, but I'm now unmuted and I say yay.
Okay. And as we're already going virtual, I will ask for Member Durst.
Yay.
Thank you. Member Dubik.
Yay.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's hard.
In favor.
Chair Greg.
In favor.
Member Farmer.
Yay.
Member Mackey.
In favor.
Member Maxwell. Member Vice Chair Shaw.
In favor.
Member Eurig.
Because it was a lot easier working the buttons over here. There aren't. Yay.
And Member Winters.
In favor.
Thank you. Say all unanimous.
Okay, thank you very much for that first recommendation being carried by unanimous vote. Second recommendation is that the Gray Sauble Conservation Authority approves the municipal apportionment for the year 2026 for operating expenses and capital costs of $2,074,349 as required by Ontario Regulation 402/22. And back over to you, Valerie. Before doing so, I'll have moved by member Dubik, seconded by member Farmer.
Okay, here we go. I'll go virtual first to make sure that they're prepared and ready. So Member Day.
In favor.
Member Durst,
In favor.
and around the room. Member Bell,
Yay.
Member Dubik,
In favor.
Chair Greg,
In favor?
Yay.
Member Mackey,
In favor?
Member Maxwell, Vice Chair Shaw,
In favor?
Member Urig,
In favor.
Member Winters.
In favor.
Thank you. It's unanimous.
Okay, thank you to the board for that unanimous vote of support for recommendation number 2. And the last recommendation of the 3 is that the Grace Sauble Conservation Authority adopt the budget as presented for the year 2026 in the amount of $4,518,385.39. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by member Urick, seconded by member Winters. Any questions? Not seeing any. Back to Valerie for the recorded vote.
And going to the virtual platform again first, Member Day,
In favor.
Member Durst,
In favor.
and around the room, Member Bell, Member Dubik,
Yay.
Chair Greg,
In favor?
Member Farmer,
Yay.
Member Mackey,
In favor?
Member Maxwell, Vice Chair Shaw,
In favor?
Member Uri,
In favor.
and Member Winters.
In favor.
And I believe that was carried unanimously. Okay, thank you very much to the board for their support. I think I say that on behalf of the outgoing chair Urig and vice chair Dubik. Thank you very much to the board for your support in the development and for the execution of the 2026 budget moving forward. So it's good to have that completed at this time. And actually, before I just move to the next item, also thanks to staff, I thought the budget companion document was extremely informative, very well done, and an excellent little piece. Sometimes there can be a lot of photos and pictures, but this was a valuable amount of constructed information within the document, and I think certainly something that the public, anyone in the public that would be taking a look at would find quite useful and informative and into the inner workings and what we do here at the Conservation Authority. So thanks to staff for that. So we are to our next item, which is a personnel policy update, and I would turn it back over to CAO Lanthier to introduce this item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll try to keep this one pretty concise. We have a couple of amendments to make to our personnel policy just to make sure it stays up to date and relevant. So we introduced the new policy in March of 2025 in order to, as part of our commitment to achieving organizational excellence and making sure that that Grace Sauble is a good place to work, a transparent place to work. But there are a few changes that we need to make at this time. So one of them is more of a housekeeping item. It's our vision statement and our mission statement changed with the adoption of our new strategic plan. So those items were in the personnel policy and they'll be updated accordingly to reflect the new vision and mission statement. In the section of the personnel policy related to earned days off or compressed work weeks, the way that works is staff who choose to participate in this program work half an hour extra each day for 14 days and then take the 15th day off. So they bank that time essentially and then take the day off. So we had set that as a pilot project for the 2025 year and said right in the personnel policy that we would review that in December to see if that's a program that should keep going. So it's important to us that we offer different opportunities for a flexible work environment to balance work-life balance for staff in a way that maintains or improves the productivity of the organization, but still helps staff have a balanced life. And so this program, several staff took advantage of it over the year. It went very well. There were no issues or hiccups with it. And so we would like to move that from a pilot project into just standard project or standard part of the personnel policy as one of the options available to staff to help balance with life. The other item that we're looking to update is related to first aid training. So under Regulation 1101 of the Occupational Health and Safety Act, it requires that there's a staff person trained in first aid on duty in every work location that has a first aid station. It's been GSCA's practice in all the time that I've been here that I can recall to keep all staff trained in first aid to accommodate this. So the idea really being if staff are working alone, there's still somebody there who's certified in first aid, and it has also been Grace Sauble's practice to pay for this. And so it comes due every 3 years or so. But we've noticed lately that sometimes there are challenges in ensuring that everyone takes the required training. So this most often would happen if staff can't be part of a group training session and then having to follow up to ensure that they do. So we want to embed it in the personnel policy to make it very clear to everyone that this is a performance standard item, that if training is required within the organization, it is required, not just nice to have. And so by having it in the personnel policy, it makes that very clear to all staff, both existing and new staff coming on, what the expectation is. So nothing huge in terms of the changes proposed. Like I said, just intended to keep the policy document current and relevant. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Are there any questions to the report? I'll go to Member Dubik first.
Thank you, Chair. So it's encouraging to see the organization be open to pilots and testing new policies. So the question is, what was the uptake of the earned day off by staff?
That's an excellent question. I don't have an exact number, Member Dubik, but I would suggest that maybe between 6 and 8 staff of the 28 took advantage of that. We do have other flexible options. So some staff take advantage of different ones because being at the office half an hour longer in a day doesn't work for everybody.
Member Day online, go ahead.
Hello. First of all, thanks for your patience with being online today. I did look at the weather radar a little while ago and realized that Wyerton has been under a steady streamer since about yesterday morning, and it actually has stopped snowing in other parts of the watershed, but I have chosen to stay home today. I have a question about first aid. I have a background in wilderness tripping from both a personal and professional capacity, and I've learned so much from wilderness first aid as opposed to standard first aid. And wilderness first aid is designed for being in areas that are more than 2 hours from definitive care. And I think that some of our staff who are working in the forestry and education departments and other work where people are outside could find themselves in a position where they're away from immediate care from an ambulance. Another aspect of wilderness first aid that we've talked about more and more over is how there's an increase in extreme weather, and wilderness area doesn't have to be somewhere that is super far from an urban area, but it just, in this definition of wilderness first aid, you are not able to be supported by an ambulance and paramedic as quickly as you would be in an office setting at the moment for the GSCA in downtown Owen Sound. I have seen people, myself included, and some of my students going on in university who have have their wilderness first aid qualification, or WAFA, which is a 40-hour course, or WFR, Wilderness First Responder, which is an 80-hour course, then have to take standard first aid just because of the policy regulations, where they're not learning anything additional to what they've already learned in the Wilderness First Responder, WAFA, or Wilderness First Aid courses, but they just have to have that for the health and safety policy. What I don't know if this is specific to health and safety, to the regulation 1001 from the Workplace Safety and Insurance Act, or if it's specific to the workplace policies of organizations. But I would love to see this explored and see the possibility of, if it is acceptable with the Health and Safety Act, to add in the possibility of wilderness first aid instead of just standard first aid. Then I think that would be beneficial for an organization like the GSCA that has some of its employees spend a good amount of time outside. Just to add one final detail, the Wilderness Medical Association is an umbrella organization that certifies the instructors, and the instructors of these courses have both medical training and extensive experience in the wilderness. One of my common instructors, for example, he was both a paramedic as well as a whitewater canoe trip guide.
If you would like to respond to that, CEO Lanthier. Yeah, I'll provide you the opportunity. I guess one thing you mentioned, Member Day, was you alluded to a 40-hour course. I don't know if that's a baseline, but that would be a significant investment into one training course.
If I may follow up, if it's not at an appropriate time, there's 3 different levels. Wilderness first aid is more, it might be slightly longer than standard first aid, but it is much more similar in length. It's the advanced wilderness first aid and the wilderness first responder that get into longer trainings, but I don't think that's what GSCA would necessarily need, just the wilderness first aid, which I wouldn't want to guess right now, but if I were to guess, I would say it's 3 days instead of 2 days.
Okay. Thanks for that, Member Day. I'll go to Member Farmer next.
Through the chair, just to add some detail. According to Google and the Wilderness Medical Association website, it's 16 hours for wilderness first aid, which to my understanding is the same as a standard 2-day first aid training.
That's good. Any further questions? I'm not seeing anything further. I think we're probably best to leave it to Tim's capacity to execute what he sees and the senior leaders in terms of what they see as the best training mechanisms for their staff, as opposed to us getting probably too much into telling or giving them exact orders on what exact programs they should be endeavoring. They've got the budget to undertake certain training initiatives, and Tim is looking just to, I think, confirm here that individuals certainly undertake that training as part of as part of our processes. Back to you, Member Day.
Thank you. By no means do I want to dictate what training the GSCA provides. I just wouldn't want to see an employee in a situation where they have wilderness first aid and then need to take standard first aid in addition to the previous training. So if that's a possibility, then I strongly support it. If it's not a possibility because of the Health and Safety Act or other barriers, then I completely understand.
Okay, excellent comments, Member Day. And I see Tim nodding in agreement in terms of just probably being able to research or look into that further. So thanks for those insights. My only question, Tim, to this is, once we get moved back into the admin center, does it short the organization any in any way of having the doors open for the general public. I wouldn't want to see that if we have policy that might shorthand us a little bit. We're a public facing entity and just want to be comfortable that those doors are always open and that we're flexible enough to meet those days off that individuals would earn.
Yes, it doesn't, it hasn't impacted our operations at all. And the way it's written into the policy is that the policy or the allowance can be overridden if operational needs required it. But certainly we've taken steps recently to ensure that even very frontline positions like reception are have a bit of redundancy built in so that we have other staff that can help out should that be the case. But no, it hasn't impacted our service.
Okay, thanks for that response. So I do have a motion, whereas GSEA's earned day off pilot project was successful and whereas changes are required to better enforce health and safety standards, that the board of directors adopt the revisions of GSEA's personnel policy as presented. Do I have a mover? Member Mackey is so moved, seconded by Member Dubik. Any further questions? Comments? Not seeing any. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Tim. And we are to an update regarding our minute taking practices. Back to you, Tim, to introduce this.
Thank you, Chair Greg. So I mentioned recently I've been attending councils for various reasons, and recently I attended Township of Chatsworth Council for our budget. And at that time, a comment was made to me from Councillor Gregg at the Township of Chatsworth asking why we don't include the names of our board members associated with specific comments in the minutes. And asking if we could look into changing that to improve transparency for the organization. So we did dig back a little bit because this had been discussed at the board previously. And I think back in 2022, our board had considered the same item. And we looked into it and it was determined that there was no resolution, but that it was standard practice that municipalities did not include the name of the board member or the council member associated with comments, but rather said a councillor stated or a member stated, and no resolution was passed, but that's the practice that we carried on with. However, this report that I've brought forward before the board today proposes to include the member's name associated with the comments that members make to help improve transparency within the organization. And the context around the decisions that are made by the board. And this would also serve to appease the comments from council member at the township. And that is the resolution that's presented to the board today. I don't think personally, I don't think there's any harm in including that. Our meetings are live for the public. They're open session meetings, but I'll leave that to the discretion of the board through you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Questions from board members? Not seeing any. I'll go to Vice Chair Shaw and then Member Mackey next.
Thank you. So through the chair, my question is actually for Valerie, and how challenging that would be for you to keep track of who says what during a meeting. Maybe you already do, but just wondered if you would comment on that.
Through the chair, it's not a difficulty. If that is the decision of the board, then I can accommodate.
Okay, Member Mackey, go ahead.
Thanks, Chair Greg. I fully support the member's name being attached to comments that are made. Councillor Gregg in the township of Chatsworth likes, and to his credit, likes to follow along with the minutes and prepares himself for council meetings, and it's very difficult to get the context of some of Grace Sauble's minutes when you're not sure what member is saying what, or to know what position certain members are taking on subject matter. So most other boards that I sit on, the member's name is attached to comments that are made and positions that are taken. And I believe that should be the case here. Thanks.
Okay, thanks for that. Not seeing any further questions. If I could just speak to the report, I've often leaned on a lot of the professional expertise and experience of one of our colleagues in Owen Sound, who was a municipal clerk for approximately 30 years. It had often been stated by herself that minutes are to be taken without note or comment. And I have supported that approach. I'm just wondering, Tim, did you reach out to any other conservation authorities just to see what their practice is before this recommendation?
No, we did not.
Okay, thanks. Member Farmer.
Through the chair, it's coming from the city of Owen Sound anyway. It's not our practice at the municipality to attach names to every comment. Instead, that as the minutes have been up to now with Grace Sauble, there's the comments and questions are summarized generally with the response. And so I find myself kind of on the fence with this one, acknowledging both that you would know who took what position and asked what if you were in the room or tuning in on the interwebs. And I think for that reason, I'll support the motion because when we're in public session, it's public anyway. I do wonder about the way in which comments will be summarized. I would not want us to be in the position of producing a transcript for the minutes, but if we've already been summarizing questions and responses, I imagine that approach could continue, even if it said that John asked a question or made a comment. So I would just seek maybe some feedback on staff on how we tread that line then between wanting full transparency and also not wanting to produce a transcript.
Thanks, Member Farmer. Go ahead, Tim.
Thank you, Member Farmer. I think what we're proposing here is nothing else in the minute taking practice would change, except that instead of a note saying rather that a member asked a question about our minute taking practice, it would say Member Farmer asked a question about our minute taking practice, but it certainly wouldn't, the intent is not that it would turn into a transcript, but rather exactly the same process, which is instead of a member, it would name which member. Member Urick, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll kind of echo Member Mackey's thoughts in that when we're at a municipal table, we know we're representing the municipality. I think this is inherent value just because if you're reading it as a third party, when you're saying the member, then you know what municipality is also commenting, because obviously there are various conversations we're having that are germane or are of interest to a specific municipality. So I think there's value in it. And again, for full transparency, anybody can come back and look at the video. So it's not like it's not going to be known anyway. So if it's not a top secret group, and I don't think that putting it on one more avenue, as a matter of fact, it's a shortcut. I think we're actually doing people a service here, because if somebody looked at it and went, now I got to go look at the video to find out who said that, we're just actually making it more difficult when they could do it anyway. This is just full transparency as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, thank you for that. So may I have you move the motion that's attached to the report that the Grace Sauble Conservation Authority Board of Directors direct staff to amend the current practice for recording meeting minutes to include the name of the board member alongside any comments they make during meetings effective immediately? Okay, so that's moved by member Yurg. Do I have a seconder? Member Dubik has seconded, and to member Dubik then to speak to it.
Thank you. So just very quickly, so do support the fact that this provides ease of transparency. And just as a friendly reminder, we also have the opportunity to still review our minutes. So, that's available to all members as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I will call the vote. All those in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. And we've got one remaining item before us, which is regarding the regulation mapping. And back to, oh, this time, all right, welcome to Gloria at the podium to speak to this item. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this item serves as an information update, as a reminder or a review of the fact that we are actively updating our mapping. So I'm going to give you a bit of history first. Our regulations came into place. We had Regulation 151-06, which came in 20 years ago now. We created at that time regulation mapping using GIS, which was a new technology to the authority at the time. The sources of that information were Ontario-based mapping. So that is the 1 to 10,000 mapping that we received from the province of Ontario. We also used hard copy air photos and old flood and fill maps that were created using years of site visits and observations from our planning staff. So pretty much as soon as that 151-06 regulation was put into effect, it seemed like there was a flood, no pun intended, of better digital information at the time. We were a little bit of a black hole in terms of digital orthophotography. And at that time, several mapping initiatives began through the province, and that included the province creating cost-sharing partnerships so that air photos could be flown on a 5-year basis. So earlier, Tim brought up that SWOOP program. So that's the Southwestern Ontario Orthophotography Program that has been happening since 2006. And they recently flew in 2025, and we're now waiting for those air photos. So that's a huge improvement, and it allowed the incorporation of these types of photos to be incorporated into modern GIS, and it served as a source of base information for things like mapping water courses in the right location. So what we're trying to do here is represent the features on the ground in the best and most accurate way possible. At that time, we quickly realized, basically as soon as the mapping was put into place, we quickly realized that we needed a process for updating not only the base information, but also the associated regulation mapping. So we received those layers like water courses, water bodies, and wetlands from the province. However, they were mapped at those regional scales by the province. So large areas, very small scale, whereas we're looking at things on a site-by-site basis. So the mapping needs to be able to reflect that need. So every year at that time from 2006 on, we did bring a very long list of regulation updates, property by property, that we had done. However, in 2017, the board made the decision that it was a better idea to approve the mapping procedure as opposed to those changes themselves, because they could be approved by the board and then changed the next day if new information came in. In 2024, as some of you may recall, the 151-06 reg was replaced by 41-24 prohibited activities, exemptions, and permits. And there were a few small changes related to mapping, but the procedure has generally remained the same. So the main change was a reduction in the setback that we place on wetlands. So previously we had a 120-meter setback on provincially significant wetlands and a 30-meter setback on all other wetlands. Now it's 30 meters for all wetlands. One of the other changes was an updated definition of water courses. Previously, it was an identifiable depression in the ground in which a flow of water regularly or continuously occurs. And now it's been changed to a defined channel having a bed, banks, or sides in which the flow of water regularly occurs. For that specific change, we have not done one big update to the mapping. We're looking at it on a site-by-site basis. So our planning staff will go out to a site and see and determine whether a water course is a water course based on that new definition, and then they can remap it either in the field or using our desktop software. One of the other small changes to the mapping side of things was now at that point, all CAs had to make the mapping available online. So we transitioned to a new platform in the last couple of years called Mango Maps, and it's a much more user-friendly. We've had some really good feedback on that platform. However, we do also provide the regulations to both the counties, and the regulations are available on their mapping platforms as well. Otherwise, the mapped features and procedures have remained the same, and we only update if we have better information come in. So some of the sources of this type of information are new elevation data, such as LiDAR. So in 2022, the province flew LiDAR. So that's using a laser from an aircraft and it's timed lasers to get high quality elevation information. So we use that for things like our confined valley system setbacks. Other sources of information are updated water courses, wetland mapping using air photo interpretation, or our stereo system. So our stereo system is one where you have glasses on and you're looking at the raw data from air photos and you can see in 3 dimensions. One other source of information are flood studies. However, generally that requires further consultation and that wouldn't fall under these minor updates. So I have placed a few examples within the report there. The first example is the removal of a small wetland feature where it's clearly not a wetland. There's a house in that location. Looking at the topography and the air photo, you can tell there's no wetland there. So it was simply removed and along with the regulation in that location. Example 2 is an area where there was a slope stability assessment done. So for those confined valley systems, the standard or default stable slope setback in the absence of further studies is generally a 3-to-1 setback. So if you had a 20-meter high slope, that setback would be 3 times that. So 60 meters from the toe. So in this example, an assessment was done and it's been defined as 2-to-1. So it's a 40-meter, it would be a 40-meter setback. Example 3 is a water course that wasn't mapped. So that has happened quite a bit in the past, less and less now as our mapping improves. But on occasion, we'll run across a water course. We'll see it in the field or we'll see it on the air photos or in stereo. And then we'll map that in there and we'll add the associated setback. By default, generally it's a meander belt, but if there is a confined valley system, then we'll put the appropriate setbacks on there. And finally, we do send, as I mentioned, our mapping to the counties and in many cases to our member municipalities if requested. Most of the municipalities are using those county systems. However, there are cases like Owen Sound where they're using their own mapping systems and then we send them out. So at this time, through the chair, if anybody has questions, I'm happy to answer them.
And are there any questions? I'm looking online first. Not seeing any hands in the air. And in the room, I'll go to Vice Chair Shaw, then Member Farmer, then Member Mackey.
Thank you, and through the chair, thank you, Gloria. It's the A's, I think, I don't know. Anyway, the updates with the county, are those live? So as you're making them, it's automatically updating in their system, or are you sending it frequently to keep those county maps updated?
The goal is to make it live eventually, but we're not there yet. So at this point, it's as needed. We're sending the updates to them as just a GIS data set.
Member Farmer, go ahead.
Through the chair, I'm curious, in November, the province released some new regulations that allowed more as of right exemptions from setback requirements for a variety of like hazard land features. Is there in our mapping structure, we're just mapping I'm interested in how the various regulations overlay each other in terms of does the mapping of that Grace Sauble uses now take into account the unpredictable and evolving regulations that zoning authorities then have to take into account, or are we just measuring what is a stable slope, what is a wetland, and calculating setbacks and the like? That's up to the development folks, and we're just producing the picture to reference. Could you clarify that relationship?
Yes, so we are just mapping the features on the ground and those setbacks, and that's a bit separate from the zoning. We do undertake hazard mapping for the municipalities and provide that with them, but then it's up to those development planning folks to interpret that and incorporate those new rules into their decisions.
Member Mackey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you. Thanks, Gloria, for your ongoing work in making the maps more authentic and as they should be on the ground. There's over the years, there's been a lot of improvement, and that is really helpful for the planning department and alleviates a lot of stuff. I'm just wondering about the definitions that you gave for water courses. Would a municipal, just based on what you read out as a definition, would a municipal ditch then be a water course if it's only running, in a rainfall event type thing? Like, I'm just trying to get a better sense for that definition. Thanks.
Generally, if it falls on, if the flow of water is continuous and regular, we would map it as such. Right.
Thank you. So just for some clarity, a municipal ditch that is only taking runoff in a rain event would not be continuous and regular. Is that correct?
Not under that definition. That is not to say that we've removed them from the regs mapping at this point, because it is on that site by site basis.
And I'll just go to Mac Plus first, and then I'll go to Member Day after Mac. Go ahead, Mac.
Yeah, just to clarify a little further, so I think Member Mackey, you're referring to like roadside ditches. So typically, if in that case, we do not regulate roadside ditches unless we do identify that a natural water course enters it and flows through it.
Thanks, Mac. Go ahead, Member Day.
Thank you. In some recent media, it looked like some folks in the Point Clark area were worried about implications for insurance and property values with some similar changes happening in another conservation authority. Are there any places within the watershed, we have a lot of shoreline, for example, in Georgian Bluffs, where the changing regulations change what's permitted on land that people already own and may not be cognizant of the impact of these changes to their property?
I'll go to Tim for a response to that question.
Thank you. I think the most important thing to remember with this regulation is that it's a text-based regulation. And so the definitions of the areas that are regulated are embedded in the texts of the legislation and the regulation. So whether or not it's mapped, it could still be regulated because it's the natural hazard exists, whether we identify it on a map or not. So taking that to the next logical step of, does this impact people's ability to get insurance or the value of their property? We can't say for sure because how a property is valued is going to be site specific. But the fact that, give an example of the shoreline, like you mentioned, if somebody's house is 10 feet away from the shoreline, it's 10 feet away from the shoreline, whether we've mapped it as hazard or not, and it is at risk whether we've mapped it as hazard or not. What we're doing here is trying to use best available data to make sure that we are appropriately capturing those things. One way that I like to think about it, because we have heard the concern in the past when appropriately mapping hazard, that people state that their property value may be impacted by this. I think it's very, very important that we also understand and recognize the other side of that equation of the insurance company that might have to pay out on that, the impacts of those natural hazards, or the person who's buying that property and has a right to know the condition of the property that they're buying. So there's, we always have to look at it from two sides, but from our perspective, the hazard's there either way. Like, we don't put it there, I guess I'm saying. Thank you.
Back to you, Member Day.
Thank you. I appreciate I understand and appreciate the comments or the response, and I'll have some empathy for people who may have owned property for a long period of time and may not know that these changes are being implemented to the regulations where previously there wasn't a concern. So I don't think there's necessarily a easy solution to any of this, but I do wonder if there's a place for continued good communication about the changes.
Okay, thanks, Member Day. I'll just go back to Tim before I'll go to Tim and then Member Maxwell.
Thank you. Just another point of clarification, Gloria did touch on this. These are all minor changes, and typically they're associated with planning applications or permit applications, so the applicant should be very aware that it exists there. Any large scale change to the regulation that would otherwise be unknown to people would go through a public consultation process. Like if we decided to do new floodplain hazard mapping or something along that line, or a new shoreline management plan that dramatically changed the hazard on the whole shoreline, that would go through a public consultation to give people the opportunity to become aware of that, to provide their feedback.
Member Maxwell?
Thank you. So Gloria, I was just kind of wondering when you said site by site. So we're talking about the Craig Leith area. I'm talking about it in particular up to the Blue Mountain. Is Grace Sauble and Nottawasaga not jointly going in on something for some mapping in that area?
I'll go to Tim there for a response.
Thank you, through the chair, Member Maxwell. There's an area in the town of the Blue Mountains, on the town of the Blue Mountains, Collingwood divide, where Silver Creek, Watercourse 1 and Watercourse 6 have a tendency to spill this way and that into each other. And we are hoping to be able to partner with the town of the Blue Mountains, the town of Collingwood, the county of Grey, the county of Simcoe, Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority, and ourselves to undertake some floodplain mapping there and to seek grant funding for that. But at this point, it's still in the early stages, and we're still working with the partners to see if that can happen.
Yeah, just like a follow-up. So when you're doing the watershed mapping. So I'm just going to say in the Craig Leith area, a lot of that has been developed using the Land Drainage Act. And a lot of the retention ponds go into these streams, intermittent streams and active streams. How will they be mapped in the future?
Try that again. It'll be based on the current best information available, as always. So for instance, a retention pond, I'm not sure that's something we'd regulate, but as Mac alluded to, those natural water courses, we are certainly regulating. Roadside ditches, if they're not connected to those natural features, they won't be regulated. So we just update them as things change, basically. And as we get that new information that we can base it on.
Okay, thanks, Member Maxwell. I'll just go to Mac before I look for a motion to receive the information. Go ahead, Mac.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to respond to that question, in that area, you know, there are comprehensive engineering studies that were done, and there's been a lot of changes. So as those changes occur and we get the certification from the engineers that those changes were done as designed, the mapping's updated then. And so it certainly does go through quite a bit of process to get to that stage.
Okay. Thanks everyone for the questions. Thanks Gloria for the insightful report. I think we get this kind of annually, an update like this. So this is just a motion to receive for information. Member Farmer is so moved. Seconder, Member Bell is so moved. Any further questions? Not seeing any. All those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. So at this point, we will be likely entertaining the CAO's monthly report. So over to you, Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Welcome back, everyone. I guess for starters, it seems like holiday season was a long time ago, but I guess this is the first time we've sat in a room together since then. So hope everybody had a good holiday season, and you're handling the weather fine now. I want to just keep you up to date on where we're at with things with the Conservation Authorities Act changes. I know many of you were just at Roma, and that was a topic of discussion there for sure. And certainly it's been a topic of discussion within the CA world as well. And it was really good to hear AMO President Robin Jones speak at Roma about all of the challenges facing municipalities and the need for strong and positive partnerships between municipalities and the province. And the Conservation Authorities Act changes was one of the items that Ms. Jones spoke to. So that was good to hear. What I can tell you is the government hasn't made any changes in the interim between the last time we spoke and now, but we have submitted the comments and the board resolution that the board passed at our December meeting to the province before the December 22nd deadline. So those were accepted by the province and will ultimately be posted on the ERO. Additionally, we've received many comments from municipalities and other conservation authorities, and those were included as correspondence in your package today. It's my understanding from Conservation Ontario that over 120 municipalities passed resolutions objecting to the proposed consolidation of conservation authorities. It's also my understanding that most of the conservation authorities did as well. I say most and not all because I just haven't seen all the resolutions, but I have seen resolutions from most of them. I've heard anecdotally that between 1,000 and 3,000 comments were received through the ERO posting on this item, but I have not been able to confirm that yet on the ERO site. From our perspective, I think it's important that we keep messaging about this. It will likely come up again soon when the legislature resumes in March. We do expect that staff at the ministry are working on this in the background right now, and that we will see something come forward in March. And I think it's important that we be ready to respond. I continue to work with my counterparts across the province at other conservation authorities to talk about what this looks like, what any advocacy should look like, and how we can work together to set the narrative for how these changes should work if they do roll forward. I still stand by that. I'm of the opinion that the current proposed consolidation is not in the best interest of the people of Ontario, and it's certainly not in the best interest of rural Ontario, where small rural voices, I believe, will be lost to the large urban ones. So that's where we're at. So not a lot of new information, but I think it is important that the board knows that we continue to push forward with the process and that we're not alone in our dialogue on this. Some other items of note, I did attend Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority's AGM a week or two.
Sorry, I'm just going to interject on you right there, Tim. Councillor or Member Mackey had a question just relevant to that item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Tim, for your comments. Just a few of the things that came to mind from, I didn't get any warm and fuzzy feeling from when the minister spoke in regards to this matter. Fait accompli actually came to mind after listening to him. The only encouraging thing that I did hear that there may be some willingness to look at amalgamation is going to happen, but to the extent and the size of the amalgamation, there may be some willingness to look at 3 or 4 conservation authorities amalgamating, still be a large area, but much smaller than what is proposed. Have you had any talks with neighboring conservation authorities about what might be a good fix if we were actually allowed to do that? What could we send back to them to try to appease their position and still look after the needs of rural Ontario?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So we are having those discussions with neighboring conservation authorities, and certainly for us, the conservation authorities that would otherwise be in the Huron Superior Regional Conservation Authority. Mind you, we haven't been talking to Lakehead region because we don't see they're great people. We just don't see an amalgamation there making sense. But a couple of different ideas that have been coming up. So there's a lot of speculation right now, and there's a lot of different proposals being put forward by different groups. We saw a proposal from Federation of Agriculture that suggested source water regions form the new conservation authority. So that would form 19 conservation authorities out of the current 36 and would pair us with Saugeen. I've been meeting with the other Lake Huron conservation authorities, so Saugeen, Maitland, and Sauble Bayfield. I've been in talks with our Georgian Bay partner conservation authorities, so Lake Simcoe and Nottawasaga Valley. But like I said, right now everything is speculation. Ideally, the government would find ways in partnership with conservation authorities and municipalities to realize the streamlining that they'd like to see and leave the government structures alone. And so that's what we'll keep pushing for right now until all other routes are exhausted, but we are having those discussions anyway.
Member Yurt, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To Member Mackey's point, I wanted to thank Member Shaw, who Aaron Eldersley was making a deputation to MNR regarding WECI, but she kindly enough invited me to come along and ambush the MNR minister, which I did because being a kind of a sister to MECP. So it was an opportunity, as my past position as chair, just to state our case again with our concerns. And I will say, and I hope Member Shaw, I think we agreed that it was at least receptive. Again, yeah, there wasn't a warm and fuzzy. There wasn't yeah, we're going to change things. But it did seem to be quite receptive, and they did seem to understand the rural concern. So, and again, to CAO Lanthier's point, I think it is important that we just have to, from the municipality's perspective, as much as from CA, we just have to keep repeating the messaging every opportunity we get to try and make sure that we're championing rural and the obstacles that this is going to present.
Okay, thank you. And back to Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as I was saying, I attended Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority's AGM recently, a week or two ago, and I just wanted to report back to the board on their elections. So their chair is Tom Hutchinson, deputy mayor from West Grey. Their first vice chair is Greg McLean, councillor from Brockton. Second vice chair is Sue Patterson, mayor from Hanover. And their member at large, or past chair, as they have for their position, continues to be Barbara DeBreen, from councillor from Southgate, I guess deputy mayor from Southgate Township. So good to see there lots of strong support at Saugeen from their board through this process as well. And one other item that I wanted to touch on with the board, as you've probably maybe seen in the media lately, is there is some flooding ongoing at in Clarksburg right now associated with frazzle ice, which is associated with the very cold temperatures that we've been seeing. So frazzle ice is essentially slushy ice in the water that forms when the river systems are still open, so not frozen over, but the temperature drops below -18 outside. And certainly we saw that last week and this week, and we're seeing backwater flooding associated with the frazzle ice in Clarksburg, in the town of the Blue Mountains. And our staff have been working quite long hours to partner with the town staff and other emergency response staff to try and make sure that we keep on top of the situation. So in terms of roles and responsibilities, Conservation Authority's role is to monitor the situation and provide updates to both our municipal partners and the community on the situation, and the municipality's role is to actively deal with that situation. So in trying to deal with the situation in Clarksburg, the town has had a hi-ho in the stream, trying to remove, or not in the stream, but adjacent to the Beaver River, north of Marsh Street, or trying to remove frazzle ice, but they had to pull that backhoe out of there because the river was starting to flood up around it, and that frazzle ice is moving upstream. So we're keeping an eye on it. It has been stable. The water levels have been stable for over a day now, but on I think it was Monday, we saw the water levels come up by 2 feet because of this. Currently, it's my understanding that no houses are being impacted, and but residents are being notified. So town staff have been going door to door in the area and notifying residents that of the concern. And but it's been a good example of our partnership, working with our municipal partners to deal with an emergency situation, which hopefully doesn't get any worse. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's everything for me.
Okay, thank you very much for that update. Looking at the screen online, I'm not seeing any hands in the air. Member Mackey in the room, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tim, just wondering, I think I heard you say May may be the date that the new building will be moving into the new building. Will it be an opportunity for board members to see it be prior to the final completion? Are we at a point that a tour could be given?
I'm going to jump in. Likely as a member of the ad hoc committee, you'll definitely have a chance on the building committee. And hopefully we'll get in there as soon as we can, so I don't even have to deal with these buttons. You've done a great job over the last year, Chair here, member here. Just go ahead, Tim, a little further to, I guess maybe my question, would there be any opportunity, maybe any chance that the board meeting even in April might be held at the new admin building?
Yeah, I'm going to do this in two parts. I'll start with Member Mackey's question, and I was going to say something facetious, but I won't. Yes, I think that's definitely an opportunity. Being that it is a construction site, though, we would have to ensure that everybody had hard hats, which we could certainly provide. But you would have to have safety boots too. But if everybody can arrange for that, we can certainly arrange to have you in and have a glimpse of the building. So the timeline right now is end of May. It was end of April originally. But we've got a revised timeline from the contractor now. We did ask for some additional things, as you'll recall, with regards to the roof and the cupola on top of the roof. So no, we won't be able to have a board meeting there in April, but maybe June, by the time we're actually moved back in. But things are proceeding very, very well. It's really great to see. Some of the things we're waiting on glass right now, so that's a big thing. But most of the addition structure is there. The roofing is in from the inside. They've started installing the stairs there, and in some of the areas downstairs, the tile is in, the ceiling is in, the bathrooms look done. So it's really starting to look like a finished product now. And but yes, we will try to get everybody in. We'll try to coordinate a time that works for everybody. and board meeting there, I'm going to say June. And then we will also host a grand opening at some point, maybe later in the summer.
Okay, thanks, Tim. Any further questions? Not seeing any. Our next item is item 18, Chair's Report. It being January, I have nothing to report. So we do have one short closed session this afternoon. And at this time, it being 4:08, I would like to have a mover that the Gray Sauble Conservation Authority Board of Directors proceed into closed session at, 4:08 to discuss matters related to the following: 1, minutes of the closed session of the regular Board of Directors meeting held on December 17th, 2025, and 2, CAO performance review closed as it relates to personal matters about an identifiable individual, including authority directors or authority employees, GSE admin bylaw section 4, and a bunch of Roman numerals. And further, that CAO Tim Lanthe and admin assistant Valerie Coleman will be present. Do I have a mover? Member Dubik has so moved, seconded by member